call this regular meeting of the Southwest Licking Board of Education to order. It is Thursday, February the 20th at 7 p.m. We're in the Board of Education meeting room. We'd like to recognize all of our visitors both here and online. If you would please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Hello, this is an Etna Elementary Connection Club with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Jones, can you call the roll, please?
Sure. Mrs. Moore.
Here.
Mrs. Spindler.
Here.
Mr. Vincent.
Here.
Mr. Zini.
Here.
Mrs. Engel.
Here. We have a quorum. We can continue. Public participation. We do have one. Mr. Corey Ford. You can come on up. If you would come to the microphone, state your name and your address, and you will have 5 minutes. Mr. Jones will be keeping the clock, and he will give you kind of the heads up when you've got about a minute to go. Okay? Yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Corey Ford. Thank you for having me this evening. I'm here this evening to speak about school fees. This is a topic of conversation that I think we both feel is important. Ohio Revised Code. Forgive me, I have notes. Ohio Revised Code 3313.48 speaks of the free education for children. Section A says the Board of Education of each city, exempted village, school district, local, and joint vocational school district shall provide for the free education of youth of school age within the districts under its jurisdiction. This is the letter of the law. An additional section of the law is section 3313.64. Speaks of the free schooling of children. Most children in the school district fall under exception B1, which is a child should be admitted to the school district in which a child parents reside. Section C says a district shall not charge tuition for children admitted under Division B1 of this section. My daughter recently came home with a elective sheet that said that she was being charged course fees for ranging from $5 to $15. The law makes an exception in which boards may charge fees, and that is for materials, and I understand that and respect that. I attend college, and I'm a working father, and I pay tuition for college. And when I get a paper from the school district that says that I'm being charged a course fee, it looks an awful lot like tuition. One of the things that when it outlines what the board's authority is under Ohio Revised Code 3313.642, it gives 2 reasons why the board may charge families outside of children not falling under section B1, and that is for materials used in the course of education, and that is also for pupils that have damaged the school property. For that course of instruction materials, the Board of Education is required to produce a schedule of fees, and I haven't seen one. And so I'd like to address this with you all today, so that if there is a published schedule of fees, I'd like to kind of be pointed in the direction of it. If there isn't, I would really like us to get on that page, because at the beginning of the school year, and every time I get a report card, I get fees assigned to my family from the school board, and they look like tuition charges. They don't look like school fees. I have sent a letter to the treasurer once a long time ago about my son, and he provided me an itemized list for that one course. Some of them had textbooks on it. The law is clear about textbooks. Parents can't be charged for textbooks unless the child has damaged them. So basically requesting your consideration on this topic, and if you guys could maybe consider us family people who are trying to make a buy. We provide, of course, a list of materials at the beginning of the school year too. That's pretty hefty. Are we getting a credit for that? Is these charges for the classes more and above and beyond all that stuff? Help me help you. I understand material fees. It's within the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we have item F. We need a motion for adoption of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mr. Zani,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel.
Yes. All right, that passes. Mrs. Engel? Yes,
Can I go back real quick?
absolutely.
Can I just make a request that whatever administrator that is overseeing the situation be in contact with the family to make sure that he has the fees and follow up with the family? I'm not sure which administrator, if it's high school, middle school, where it is, but please do that.
Yeah, we'll take care of that.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Presentation, OFCC, Mr. Janelle, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You should have already received an update from Hill and also from Office of Construction. I am attempting to work with Carmen Miller to give you an update from them each month so that you can get an opinion or a position from each of our three teammates when it comes to this project. If you have questions about either of these two reports, please reach out and I will reach back to them to make sure that you get a clarification if need be. These are all being posted, I believe, on the webpage still, so you should be able to see, I'm guessing, months going back and see how the progress is going. So tonight, I have a presentation to try to give you more of just a humanistic or just a friendly outlook at what's happening. But I also have a couple requests tonight that I need your input on a couple items that I think that we need to have so that we can continue to move forward with them. And I'll share them here in a little bit. So let's make sure this is on. I told the guidance department to kick back because this might take a while. So. All right, so you know, when I was superintendent, I got what I felt was a little harassment when I played a little bit of music. So when I go and talk about my feelings, they said to bring it back gently. So. Do you have to start it or do I start it? No, I think you. Well, I totally took it out.
Music. It's the right one.
Well, I think it's very gentle.
Super gentle.
Very subtle.
It's just got a little drum beat.
All right. Now I'm gonna have to go back. I'm gonna have to sign up for another one. All right, well, we'll just keep moving forward then, so on time. This has been updated. There was a mistake on the last one, as hard as I worked. The December 20th, 2020, I had January 2021, and I fixed that up in the fall, so that's been corrected. One of the items, again, I know that Mrs. Perkins and the team are beginning to work on, but just to note, most of them have a July completion date, but again, we have something set up for Etna, but you know, that's going to cause some concern for the calendar, and I know that they're working on getting that all finished. So if you have any questions about that, and, you can obviously direct that to the office, but you can see two buildings that have the December timeline, which makes it a little rough during the middle of the year. All right, so no new information. Again, the way I presented it last month is we just started at the lowest level. That's this building. This building's the only thing that we have left with the project is the possible raising of the building. I don't believe that's our intention. So this may come off in future meetings. Kirkersville, we had a digital scanning begin. Omega was out there, and they're going to put it in a 3D format so as the renovation begins here in a little while that they have that. We're also taking core samples, a shallow 5-foot grab of the asphalt to make sure that the asphalt is, or really to tell us what shape it is in. We're not really comfortable with knowing whether it's high density or standard density type or high traffic type of asphalt. We want to make sure that where we've put the buses, it can uphold or hold up to the weight. Pataska, the same thing. That scanning process is done, but this, matter of fact, it was Monday of this week and Tuesday of this week they took the core samples. Usually takes about 2 or 3 weeks, so we should find out a little bit more about our asphalt. Well, it's got a mind of itself. Etna renovation, DD reconciliation is currently taking place. You guys have already approved SD. Again, core samples were taken there. I had mentioned last month that they're looking at modifying the entrances for the parents and also for the buses, and they want to make sure that the asphalt is substantial there to hold the weight and the amount of traffic that each area is going to get. So those are the beginnings of those. Are there any questions? You can ask throughout, or you can wait to the end. Sometimes it's easier flipping back and forth when I'm closer. I'll just tell you there are about 69 slides.
I don't know if you've been to Etna, but I don't know, I'm guessing it's probably the township or whatever they're doing, but they're laying a lot of flags, yellow flags.
You know, I live right in that neighborhood, and yellow is usually gas, I thought. So, and they had done a bunch of repair on that last year.
But it looks like they're spray painting our parking lot too, so I'm wondering if they're suggesting that the gas line is going underneath our parking.
Well, I can check on
Yeah.
it. I'm not familiar with what they may be doing. But OOPS goes only so far into our land, and then it's our responsibility to know where the
Didn't
gas
they have a
lines are.
gas issue earlier in the fall?
Yeah.
Did we have a gas
No,
issue?
didn't Columbia Road have a gas issue like
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
earlier in the fall?
Actually, Kirkersville had a little bit of a mess up, but it was at the end of the day.
No,
What did I say? Kirkersville? Moved around.
Not the school, but the road, so I'm just wondering if this all has something to do, maybe.
That could very well be.
Well, they, like I said, they definitely spray painted the pavement, so it kind of made me concerned to see what they were doing.
I have not heard, I don't know if they've shared anything with the administration over there or not.
Okay.
I didn't even share with a rye earlier this year, so I don't know.
But we can look into that,
Okay.
see what we can find out.
This is a little off topic, and maybe I should know the answer to this and just don't, but this came up between the last meeting and now. People in the community were asking about flashing lights for the school zone. Is that part of our project, like moving forward? I know it can't be that much money, but is that a part of what we're doing here, or is that a separate issue?
It's matter of fact, flashing lights, first of all, are not required. You just have to post it, you're in the school zone. The second thing is that we have already advanced on the Kirkersville situation. Brad worked with the town, or the village, and it was kind of a joint group, but that was the first phase of it, yes. Oftentimes you hope that the city will do some kind of safe schools type of walking for money that way. There should be a slight budget for the improvements in that particular area. We will probably have to work with the township, or it may become LFI money.
I know it's on the township's radar. I've been reading a few meeting minutes.
Okay.
And the township has brought it up, and they said, I forget how they worded it, but they also thought there might be grants for that.
Okay.
Yeah, the Safe Routes to Schools is how the city of Patasko got it for us. Yeah. But they tried a few years ago when I first came here, and we didn't get it. I don't know if we just dropped out or if we were turned down. But
Okay.
I remember working with Platt at that particular time.
Okay.
All right, so we're to Watkins Intermediate School. That's one of our new builds. So what I've got, this is the outside of the building, obviously. It's kind of tough because we don't see each other except for months apart. So some of these pictures are going to have snow, some won't have snow. So I try to give you a gradual look. You'll see sometimes there might be a roof, there might not be a roof. But hopefully the roof picture, you realize that's a later picture. So. All right, so we'll just kind of move. A lot of things are happening. I'm going to just kind of take you inside. This is the nanatorium there in the cafeteria area. See, my humor hasn't gotten any better. Nanatorium. Okay. Back to the interior. You can see the windows at the bottom, the windows that are being shaped at the top. This is I took the picture from the stage. There are steps leading down to the floor then, and in the commons area or the cafeteria area. Again, a different perspective. You can see where I was at. I was standing in that dry area with the snow around. But again, not only is metal going up and brick and block going up, but also equipment's going in throughout the building. There's some electrical. Oops, a little touchy today. That is actually the hoods for the new kitchen.
Yeah.
And they have been covered now with plywood to prevent them from getting banged up, but those have been installed. So that's moving. The back behind that little tractor trailer is where the freezer is going to go. So a lot happening in that particular area. Studs are going up. Along the studs, you can see up at the top, they do drywall in areas that have been, basically made weather tight. You'll see this in the background, there's even walls that are complete. This is the area, if you can remember back, they call it Area C. This is down here, matter of fact, that wall is the new band room in that particular building. And then coming forward are the STEM rooms. So you're kind of walking past the commons, the cafeteria, down that hallway. It's kind of parallel with the gym, and this is where those areas are. Again, this is the picture from up above, and just to give you a little motion, we'll just see the front of the building. Roof lines are coming in. That's not a completed roof, that's just the freeze material to keep water out. That will be coated. You can see the gray bricks that have been laid on the gym. There'll be a logo that will go on top of that. The red bricks have begun. Roofing on the top of where the equipment will be set, the flatter portions. It's a lot of work. Yeah. All right, Watkins Middle School renovation. Again, SD reconciliation is currently taking place. That's redoing the high school into a middle school again. Again, asphalt samples are being taken, and pricing for the island removal is currently taking place. And I want to say it was one of you, I think it was, Mrs. Spindler, that talked about what was happening with that. So this picture is showing you the island that's going to be removed this summer. We are getting both OFCC pricing and also our own pricing to see which is cheaper. They're okay if it's cheaper for us to take care of it this summer, so we're working on that now. But this is the path that they're going to be using from Watkins Road. They come in, turn left. The blue line down there, you're going to lose the parking spots again to the south, but everything north of that is still going to stay functional as long as the administration doesn't have an issue with it. The blue line will have some kind of barrier to keep cars from darting in. The suggestion that I would add at the very end, or to your left, very corner where the arrowhead is that they would not completely close that off, so if the cars continue to use the drop, that they can re-enter the line back there and then go back out. But that will be the administrative decision. I'll work with them on that. Moving behind the high school, you can see that messy, foggy area up the top. That's the parking lot near the existing high school. The red line is picking up where it left off. That is the ball field up there. There was a question about that. You can see that the disturbance line runs into the end zone, and I would say that if you keep from the 5-yard line north, you're probably pretty safe, maybe the 10-yard line. There'll be some noise, obviously, from the equipment, depending on when practice is at, but that is the plan for that particular area. The goalpost is in there, and that will be removed and turned back over to school. We can put that up when we're ready to do that. I know we had questions on that last month, and also the timeline on this is as soon as possible, to be honest, because we have to have it up and running and paved really before the fall season's over with paving, because we need it for the winter month when the elementary opens up. So I'm hoping that answered the question there. All right, Watkins Memorial High School new build. Same kind of thing, but a few more outside pictures because there's very little that has been enclosed, but this is a good aerial view. One of the things that I pointed out last week that I hope you see tonight is that the classroom additions, those are long. Those are football field in length, and there are 4 of them. I try to give you some ground shots, so as we go through this, try to imagine walking from one end to the other. The nearest corner down at the bottom again is your high school chorus room, band rooms moving up towards the auditorium. And then further up north, just to the right of the auditorium would be the locker rooms that are going to get paved between that particular gym and the auxiliary gym. And you'll see closer pictures to that. But then we'll kind of take some different angles. Again, the classroom additions are starting to go up. And again, you can kind of see the center arc there by that red container. Again, there's a circle there for drop-off for parents. So you can kind of see to the left academic, to the right, which is not completed, your arts, and then you go in between them. Oops, sorry about that. This is an area, matter of fact, this is all one port. Right in the center, that is your library. And you can kind of see those triangular pieces. That would be your hallway behind the library, lined with the glass walls connecting the 2 sides. And to the upper portion are additional classroom and mechanical space. I just thought you might see that they're actually pouring a lot of concrete. The weather's been fairly good. They covered, obviously, and it dried, and it looks very good. This is a shot again of the academic spaces. Just again, I can't tell you until you get out there, that's a lot of space. You know, sometimes when you're up 400 feet, 300 feet, it makes it look a little smaller. But again, look at all the metal and stuff that's going to be going into the building. It's got a lot. And this is the ground floor. They really haven't started the second floor anywhere. This is a shot of the auditorium. And again, that wall's come down. That's been totally cleaned up. There's a recovery schedule being put in place to recover the 2 or 3 weeks that kind of fell behind, the 20 days or so. They're working with the subcontractors on making sure that, you know, we don't get the building any later than we were promised. This is the picture I wanted to show you. I wanted to say something before. I've always made it from up above, but I took a picture today because I was walking out there just to show you from ground level that the high school does sit a good bit higher than the elementary. And because again, we paid for terraforming, but we left a lot of areas alone because of the cost. Not sure why it's skipping it. I'm going the wrong way. So you can kind of see, I was about in the bus area. So the high school sets up, and there'll be gradual sloping coming down with the sidewalks, and then the elementary will be at the other side. Is that a question?
No.
Okay. Again, these are just shots. This is actually looking at, I was in the library looking at the auditorium to the right, and that's a wall in the cafeteria that's going up to enclose that particular area. This is from where, just outside of the auxiliary gym, looking to the east. That same wall is right there with the orange blankets, and on the other side of that is the cafeteria. So again, just down this hallway, you can see it's a good distance. Keep moving. This is actually the locker rooms getting ready for a pour. The blue material is the material they put down for the radon protection. So they collect, it kind of collects it underneath, and the pipes will take it up and out and away. But that is the wall of the auxiliary gym going up. So that is going to be poured probably within the next week. I showed the crane because I wanted to let you know that metal is also going up for the first floor there. Pretty soon they'll be bringing the metal in and pouring the concrete up there and taking the walls all the way up, so you'll get the elevation with the high school. Oh, too fast. This is one of the hallways again, looking down just how long it's going to be. Again, I decided to take a little walk and shoot back. So as there's my footprints.
How long the walk took, it was snow on the other end. There was no snow.
It was snow when I started. But again, as I keep going back, those hallways, they're 300 feet long, all the way back in the very far corner, eastern corner, looking back, and you can see the auditorium, the gymnasium there. So it's got some size to it, and there's 4 of those. So what I did here was maybe it won't work. I put this to motion just to kind of give you a glimpse, a little flyover. There's the locker rooms. They've closed in the gymnasium. Here comes the academic spaces. Science classrooms are right there. Last time they were just pipes sticking up out of the ground. Again, classrooms on both sides, hallways. Moving over to classrooms in the back, up front, you'll have offices and additional classrooms. And again, you'll see that circle there by the red carrier, that's the front of the building. The other thing that I mentioned to Mike when I talked to him, there are restrooms throughout the building, and it's nice to see them going in. So right when you walk in, there's a gang of restrooms, and there's restrooms over by the auditorium. It's very, very nice. All right, so any questions there? This is what I wanted you to consider, so I want to run through a few things. There's a couple that they're just things that we've talked about in the past that just want to clear the air. First thing, the artifacts haven't left us. They are in the hands of SHPO. Garmin Miller setting up a meeting for us. We'll have to decide if or what we want to use right now. So we're going to remain with SHPO until we request back what we want. I reminded you of some of the more famous pieces. That's a little piece of that blue glass that, from the resistor. That was supposed to be a joke. But the rest over on the left is some of the artifacts that had significant value. State Route 40 was also asked last week, or last month, I believe. The new school location, you can see, this is just the intersection where the light's going to be. And what's important is in the line saying that the eastbound lanes and the westbound lanes are gonna be completed at different times. So if you're going west, you're gonna be able to turn in with the lights. I doubt they shut down 40, so there's probably just gonna be some reduction of lane spaces. But the eastbound lanes will be finished the following year. Again, ODOT has made us a significant savings. Remember Robinson saying millions of dollars? And so Mr. Jones and many of us and myself sat down, talked to ODOT, and we got it down to $250,000, $250,000, significant savings to the school. So that, we're really glad that ODOT teamed with us. All right, signage. Here's where one of the decisions needed. You guys, whoops, see how quick it was? Thanks for the input. You guys had chosen a kind of a modern look with the digital signs. And this is the signs that were produced by Shira that would go in front of the buildings. Each of these digital signs would have two sides, and the lighting would be internal, up there where it says Watkins, Memorial, or Intermediate. And you can kind of see over to the right the materials. I don't have to read all that to you, but the bottom line down there, there's always a budget and there's a cost. And they told you if you wanted to have digital motion on both sides of these signs, it would be probably above the budget. So tonight, we see that we had 15,000 in there, it was 18,000, so we're over by 3,000 for each of those signs. So we're gonna have to consider that. These are the locations. So as you're coming in, the bottom there is State Route 40, the curve that leads you to Union. Those are where the two electronic boards would go. And in front of each of the buildings. Next up, these are going to show you the traffic on that particular Warrior Way and where to go in and where to park. These are, I just got the price this morning, $13,800 plus installation. We had $20,000 budgeted, so we're going to be ready for that. So that looks good. These are the locations, the little circles. The one at the top, we were going to put one all the way back there at the old high school so that people at the beginning of the connector road knows where that's going and what's down there, and vice versa. The circles are, again, where all these signs are going to be, and most of them have two sides to them. So if you're traveling one way, they'll say something, and if you're traveling the other way, obviously whatever's down that path will be visible on the sign. So it saves us a little bit with that. And really quickly, it was really quick again, this is the question that I need to pose. We talked about this. It is a sign that could go by State Route 40 on Warrior Way. I'm going to tell you up front, I'm not real excited about this. I think the building's close enough to the road that you can see the building. They're asking $58,000 to erect this thing. We have nothing in the budget for it, but when they showed you, you were interested. So tonight I'd like to tell the architects and Robinson that this is either a go, and we have to find that money, or we're not going to do this particular part of it. Now, just to show you, that is the blue box right there. That's where that would go. Right there at the corner of Warrior Way and State Route 40. By the way, on the other side of the blue, on the other side, that's where we're hoping to put something that Rick's working with in terms of the Linke family. So back to this, that's one of the concerns that we have. So give that some thought whether or not you'd like to see this become a part of our project.
This is an agenda item, number 7.
It is.
To
Oh, it
talk
is.
about, but we can talk about now if you want to, instead of wait until number 7 under business. It's basically, it's up to you as a board. There's one other thing to talk about too, but it's up to you when you want to talk about it. So it's under discussion action regarding OFCC project as titled.
Would y'all like to speak about it now? While
Yeah,
there's
actually, it's
pictures in
not,
front
yeah.
of you.
All right, so
Could this be put up later?
Oh, yes,
We
obviously.
could put it in any time, right?
It's going to be our money, so the state's not paying for it, so
So
you can do it whenever you would like to.
You're saying, since the high school is so close, you kinda don't need a sign to know that's the high school. Would it say high school on the end of the,
It's gonna have
Of the
a
building?
thing on the side of the gym, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah, so my thoughts are hold off and if nobody can find the place, then we'll put a sign. But
It's sitting out there on
for
the.
58,000, that seems like a lot of money for it.
And I may have
Just a
mentioned
sign.
before, it may be good to reach out to ODOT to see whether or not they can put something up by the traffic light that says
Yeah.
Warrior Way to
Right.
the left
Yeah.
or to the right, and that would remind them. Didn't mean to interrupt your discussion.
No, that's my thoughts.
I mean, it's already known because there was a accident and it was on the scanner already as Route 40 and Warrior Way. So I mean, it's already a deal.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, the other night I'm like, oh look, we're already there. So not that I should be excited about a car accident, but you know what I'm saying. I'm like, look.
Scanner heads.
I know. I'm nosy. What can I say?
So any question I can ask? You
Yeah.
see the material?
Do you want a motion to not do it?
I guess unless you're board comfortable, I guess I'll say no. I just don't know where you feel.
I can't see spending that for that.
I can't see spending that either.
No.
Are you comfortable with that?
Are you all? Are we
Yes.
good with that?
I'm comfortable with
Are
not
you're
doing.
good with just hearing a no from us? We do not want that.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
If they want to donate it, they
Yeah, absolutely.
We only accept donations.
That's right. Anybody wants to?
All right, well, I appreciate
have a
that.
question,
And again, as Roger said, if you decide to do something later, you can obviously
on
do
this,
something like
not on
this or something totally different. It's your land. You just have to probably get some permission to be kind of in the right of way area, but that would be something you work out.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry.
It's on your, if you go back to the digital signs, right there. So we're over by 3,200 per sign,
Per sign.
and then flip forward to the other directional signs. We're under by 13 grand.
No,
No,
by about
Six,
There's
so-
installation that still has, that's the only thing that Robinson didn't have finalized.
Because the way I look at that, it's a wash.
It's gonna be
Ish.
close, but my guess is you have to wait till bidding actually happens, so their guesstimate is gonna make it close. It could come in a little under, it could be coming a little over, depending on how it
So
goes
we
on the sign.
really couldn't make decisions on these two items until we had those exact numbers.
No, I think that this is the, you won't go over this.
Okay, so it is close to a
Yes,
wash.
it's close to the
Okay.
wash. I may have messed that up.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Nice.
And again, it's a sign they'd have things on both sides. All right, the next topic is mortar color. You guys picked yellow, black, gray, red bricks.
Back to color.
When the architect was here, she presented, she had little pieces of chalk, and I don't know who she talked with, but she said she did, that she would like to have black mortar between the black, is what she recollects and what she, in her mind, has put into the project. The people laying the bricks read it as gray, or read it as gray. So there's been a concern on which path do we want to go. And I'm going to show you tonight, and I have a recommendation, or Casey can make a recommendation, however you like it. But looking at this, there's a little bit of words, and I'm going to show you pictures, and hopefully with the light you'll be able to tell. Black has been recommended between the black brick. So the mortar is what they install after the, I don't mean the insult, but I want to make sure everybody knows what we're talking about. It's what you see between the bricks. Yep. So gray is being used as the primary mortar color everywhere else. If you go with the black that they would like to have, it's an additional $12,141.59. That's where we're at right now. Okay? So, this is the black mortar. It's going to be kind of tough in here, but you can kind of see, this is the black bricks. There was discussion of extending it into the areas where there are multiple colors, but it would go around the yellow and it really would stand out. This is freshly laid black mortar. Over there, that is the same model, mock-up is what they call it, but a few weeks later. And what that has happened, yeah, that's great, is it may start out like this.
Looks great.
But you can start to see the lines. All right. Now the question, how I'm going to share my thoughts is the next slide. The only thing I switched was gray mortar. So on this side, this has not been cleaned, but you can kind of see the gray here. Is it worth the difference in the look? And this will stay a little darker, you can kind of see, than the other gray. And to the architect, that's a significant amount. But to my eye, I see gray as gray. So I want to show you a couple things. She sent an example of gray, this is a building to the right. From a distance, it looks like it's black on the bottom and red at the top. But as you zoom in, the bricks actually, I have the gray around it, but that's supposed to be black. So you're gonna see that, very much like it's gray. So she sent us renditions. So this is the area that we're looking at, next to an area like right here, where it's all black, black on black, and over here, black on black. But this is gray mortar in there. This is the black mortar. It punches. This is another area, the side of the building. It's got gray brick, it's got red brick, it's got the gray ground, and then it's got the black with the gray inside of it. Or, sorry about that, it will look like that. But again, that's a picture now, but as it fades, you kind of get to see the gray lines. So the question that I have for you would be, is it worth putting the black in?
And that price was for just the intermediate school or both?
Yeah.
That is just for the intermediate school. There's a different Mason, Lang is on the high school, Bulmer is on the elementary, two different Mason companies.
Okay.
These issues came up for high school yet, I'm probably gonna check on that, yeah.
They have stripes at the high school, compared to some sections, but not as much as this building has.
Do we have something already in place at the high school?
You mean in terms of the
Mortar color, sorry.
mortar colors, we as a board, remember you made the bricks the same, so what we decide here will
Okay, I
translate
was
to what's
making
at the high
sure.
school.
What are your thoughts, Bob? I mean, you've probably seen it closer than I can see in a picture here. I mean,
I think that you don't see a lot of black on black. I think that it has likability to it, but in my opinion, the gray, this one in particular, I think it blends the colors a lot more together. So I guess if you're asking my opinion, I'm not sure I would need the upcharge. I think the gray mortar looks nice.
I personally don't see the need to spend $12,000 on mortar color.
I don't see a need to spend $12,000 for black. That's gonna fade to gray.
Yeah.
It will be a little darker than gray, but you're exactly right.
It's a lot of money for aesthetics.
Especially when
We've got a
you're-
lot of project to work on too.
Yes, that's the thing.
I mean, we got digital signs that we're over on.
Exactly. You're now in the positive. If
Right.
you do what you've done tonight, you've gone definitely into the positive. You say 58 on just the side alone along the river.
what are your thoughts, Casey?
I was sold after seeing the comparison of the fading after just a few weeks. I mean, maybe a few years, but a few weeks. So I would also go with the gray.
You probably already saw that. That's it.
Okay.
Anything you need between now and then? I heard a couple.
Did everybody agree
Is
on
that
gray?
everybody?
I
Is
haven't heard
everybody
everybody
good
agree
on
yet.
I
gray
agree.
mortar? Gray
Yep,
mortar?
I'm good.
Gray mortar? Okay.
We got 5 gray and 5 no big signs.
I just remember that in the future.
Okay.
I wish I was black.
Sorry. This would have been so much better. That's all I just.
They like it so much, they can
They
always
They can pay
donate.
for it.
They can donate.
No, they're not going. No. All right. Thank you. All right. We have another presentation. We have our school counselors on the school counseling program. Hello.
And you can rest assured, we don't have any questions for you that involve that. No offense. Thanks so much for having us. My name is Erin Miller. I've met almost all of you. I'm at the high school. I've been in the district since 2012. So our purpose for our presentation tonight, we want to introduce the board and anybody else in attendance who may not know to our K-12 school counseling team. We also want to provide information about the role of the school counselor as it pertains to the American School Counseling Association, the Ohio Department of Education, and then also review current data that we've been collecting and information about school counseling in our district. Please feel free to ask questions along the way. comment, whatever you need. We really just wanted to provide education about what we're doing. So to start with, we do have most of our team here. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
Yes. Good evening. I'm Scott Willis. I'm the newest addition to the team. I am at Careersville.
And I'm Brittany Truman. I'm at ASCA Elementary, and I've been in the district since 2016.
I'm Katie Grezlik. I have been a school counselor for 9 years, and it's my 19th year in the district.
Hi, I'm Amy Gengo. I am at the high school, and this is my second year being part of the team.
Mr. Bulmer at Etna was not able to be with us tonight, and I believe some illness has come from the middle school. Unfortunately, we've heard, at least at the high school level, there's been a lot of sickness. So, but Mrs. Hahn and Mrs. Matheny are at the middle school. So, just some comedy, a little bit of comic relief for you. Historically, our role has been called guidance counselors. Over the last probably 10 years, there's been moves from the American School Counseling Association to move out of the guidance counselor role and into school counseling for a few reasons. Guidance counselors were more reactive in nature. They only provided services to some students, and they worked a lot in isolation. I can say from my experience and looking at what a school counselor is listed as here, data-driven, proactive, serving all students. We are school counselors and not guidance counselors. Historically, in some of the data that I've been reading, guidance counselors were primarily with JVS, CTEC, like the skilled trade schools, and not so much in your general education public school setting. So just some comedy for you to remember. No, you're looking for the school counselor. This is the guy dance, if you can see the comedy there. So, ha 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 ha.
You and Bob have been hanging out.
I mean, I did channel my inner Mr. Janelle. Our first, we encourage school counseling as our title. It's just nothing personal. We want to be proactive, and we are data driven. So that is what we prefer. So who are school counselors? We are certified and licensed educators. You have to have a master's degree in school counseling, and we are employed at all levels. We address developmental needs of all students through a comprehensive school counseling program, and we focus on 3 domains, those being academic, social, emotional, and college and career. And then we help all students. We help them apply academic strategies, manage emotions, and apply interpersonal skills, and plan for post-secondary plans. One of the things we've done at the high school is we've adopted the motto of you pick your E. That way, it used to be historically like college was the push. Everybody had to go to college. We know now that that's not the case because so many careers are in such high demand that don't require 4 years of college and debt. So we chose E because it's the same letter. You are employing after high school, you're enlisting in the military, or you are enrolling in a school. So with the same letter, they are fairly comparable in nature. Productive members of society is what we're going for. We also have an evaluation, like teachers have to go through their OTES process. The Ohio School Counselor Association worked with the Ohio Department of Education to formulate their evaluation. We are evaluated on 6 standards. I won't go through them all in detail, but the first one is our comprehensive school counseling plan, our direct services for academic and social and emotional development. Standard 3, indirect services, so how are we collaborating with our referrals outside of our school building, evaluation and data, leadership and advocacy, and then professional responsibility, knowledge, and growth. Those are the things when we sit down with our administrators that we are having discussions on, and those are the things that we want to be doing with our kids, with our students. Some appropriate duties as ASCA, the American School Counseling Association, puts forth and as are listed in our evaluation, it's all about student contact. We talk about direct services versus indirect services. We want to be with students 80% of the time, whether it's in classrooms, in small groups or individual sessions, and then 20% of that time is doing the indirect work. Whether you're following with parents, you are doing a little bit of paperwork. We do some short-term counseling with students. We do a lot of referrals for long-term support because that is not our role. We provide support during the school day, but we are not therapists. Collaboration with families and our administrators and teachers for student success. Of course, advocacy. We are probably, next to the teachers, the students' largest advocate when it comes to tough conversations that have to happen. And data analysis. All right, I'm gonna hand it over.
So, Mrs. Truman and I wanted to highlight what each domain kind of looks like in our buildings. So for the academic domain, it's addressed through individual meetings and teacher-parent consultations. We also know that at the younger level, we look to support their social emotional needs so they're able to focus and work in the classroom in order to achieve their academic statuses. So the social emotional domain is addressed through individual student meetings, small groups. We try to do classroom guidance within all of the students and building wide character ed lessons. Career readiness at the younger level is usually provided through lessons through classroom guidance, so they get an idea of what careers are. They're introduced to what their options are at a younger age. And then for our small groups.
Yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit about the small groups that we have to offer at both Kirkersville and Pataskala. So we do a Stress Busters group, and that is working with students who have anxiety. We work on how to identify it and then how to cope with it. We also have a Circle of Friends group, which is more about social skills. And a banana split is a popular one at our schools too, and it's for the kids whose parents are going through a divorce. And we also have a large number of students who are being raised by grandparents, so we have a group for those kids as well.
Okay. Along with some of our other responsibilities, I will not bore you with reading this whole list, but just a few things to highlight. We are, like was mentioned earlier, referrals to community agencies. If we find that a student is requiring a basic need, something fundamental that they maybe don't have, we'd like to be the support for them to link them to those resources. We are also the managers of the 504 plans in all of our buildings. So we write, we maintain, and we review all of those plans. We're also members of our PBIS team and RTI teams. So we like to reach out beyond what we do in the building to make sure that we're collaborating with our teachers and our administration to see where there are gaps that we can fill. Mr. Bulmer, who is not here with us today, he's at Etna Elementary, also has very similar responsibilities with the 3 domains. He was able to provide for us this evening some of his percentages. So if you can see at the bottom, this is where he tracked where his time is mainly spent. You can see and notice that 56% was social emotional, so that's where he's finding right now in his building that he's having the greatest need. And then same with his additional responsibilities. Some of the other things that he put on is behavior incentive plan coordination. He tries to help with some of the academics that relate to behaviors with his students at an older level, and consultation with staff and parents. And then for our middle school, they weren't able to be here this evening. But one thing that they do at the middle school level is their ROCKS program. So that's a small group with empowering young women and girls. And that's something that they start at an older level that we've been doing, I think, for the first year. This is the first year, and it's been pretty successful. So, sorry, guys. To the high school. At the high school, again, we are addressing those 3 different domains. Within the academic domain, we're really looking at how do we meet the needs of each individual student, right? Their goals are all going to be different. As Erin said, you know, everybody's E is something different. And so we're not always talking about college, but we might be talking about how do we get to that high school diploma and then get that job, right? And so we're talking about how do we get through the academics and how do we successfully graduate from high school. The second bullet up there, the scheduling. We are in the midst of scheduling right now, you know, getting those course requests in, figuring out, you know, what courses that we can offer these students, and then advising students about what courses would be good for what their goals are post high school. College Credit Plus, that is also a really big beast of a sort. You know, with the different options that we are able to provide at Watkins, and then making sure that students know how to register for those courses and place into those courses, and what are the pros and cons of taking courses like that. And then we have, you know, kind of the opposite end of the spectrum there with summer school advisement and credit recovery. You know, we also have the students who are struggling in school, and what are their different options. And then the individual graduation plans. As you are all very aware, you know, the state is changing how, you know, students are graduating with that testing requirement. So we really look at what each student needs in order to graduate, whether it's the, the test for those different 7 end of course exams, and now coming is the diploma seal. So we take care of all of that and track what each student is doing. And then we did want to add the new students. We are getting every year, this is my 2nd year, and I have a lot more new students this year than I did last year already. As Pawhuska is growing, and so orientating them, acclimating them to the building, reviewing their transcripts, getting them into the right courses, that definitely is something that we do quite often. And I just pressed this right. There we go. Social and emotional. Something that I really do want to point out is, this year we had our very first Warrior Wellness Day. All of us counselors are part of the PBIS team, and so that, and along with Ms. Lodowitz, we did lead some sessions there. We actually led a session for the 10th grade students on future focus. We used Ohio Means Jobs, did some career cluster inventories there to try and get them thinking about what is for them after high school. And then also with the PBIS team, the Mindful Monday lesson. So each Monday in their 5th period class, which is longer than all the other class periods, the counselors create different lessons. They're about 10 to 15 minutes. And the themes for these lessons all come from the social and emotional standards from ODE, from the different competencies. So for example, for February, it is healthy relationships. So we've come up with different videos about healthy relationships just to spark conversations within the students and with the teachers, to hopefully kind of have like a tier 1 intervention there, so everybody is kind of being exposed to hopefully what a healthy relationship. March and April we have diversity, and then May is all self-care. So those are coming up. Every Tuesday we have Kids in Crisis team meetings. That's where we problem solve as a group with administrators, with our school resource officer. We have BHP social workers and as counselors. We all gather around the table and talk about how we can help support our students. And then we assist with the suicide screenings with this year 9th and 11th graders. So anybody who scores a little bit high, we definitely meet with them on an individual basis and contact parents and sometimes refer to outside agencies there. Along with that, college and career, something I do want to point out, I know some people have been there for the life in the real world. This is a 9th grade activity, and there's a volunteer from Kirkersville United Methodist who puts this together each year, and it's only my 2nd year, but every year I walk away from that going, wow, that was so impactful. And I really think that those freshmen really get to, it's like they play that board game live, right? They actually get to walk through it and kind of, participate, and they always come out saying, I'm never having children. They suck all the money from you. And I'm like, yeah, welcome to the real world. So as I said, we do career cluster inventories, not only with 10th graders that we did on the Warrior Wellness Day, but we did do a follow-up to 9th graders, and we do that with the 11th and 12th graders as well. The CTEC planning class trip, that's something that we do with the 10th graders, where we expose them to the different options that are available over at CTEC. And then a lot of the seniors, the financial aid, the FAFSA, the college application, the Common App, I don't know if any of you guys are aware of that. That is a very tedious application. And so we do offer help sessions on Wednesdays in the afternoons for students to come in and get some one-on-one help. Of course, we do scholarship processing. NCAA Eligibility Center for those students who want to participate in sports at the college level. And then we submit all those final transcripts to colleges and universities. Now, that's not all that we do. So some of our other responsibilities there, as was stated, the 504 case management, we have roughly around 80 504s currently, and that number seems to be growing. So you're setting up the meetings, you're doing evaluations and kind of monitoring and collecting data for each of those students. As I stated, we are all PBIS team members. We meet once a month as a team. RTI, I think we're kind of sometimes the first line of defense for a lot of families. And so when a student is struggling, the parent seems to reach out to us, and then we can start initiating, well, let's meet as a team and let's problem solve how we can best help you. Testing. Wow, about testing. The ACT is on Tuesday, if you didn't know. So the testing does take a lot of, as Erin said, indirect service time, right? And so a lot of prep. And so what we do is, help students get registered, administer those tests, and most of all, interpret that data, because a lot of times I feel like students take these tests and they don't know what they mean, right? And so we want to make sure that they understand why they took it and what that data really means for them. We do attend IEP and ETR meetings as needed. And College Credit Plus coordinator, as I said, that is a growing field. And there's a lot involved in that. And then we also do a daily lunch duty of 30 minutes, which I thoroughly enjoy watching people eat.
Okay, so this is kind of a summary of all of our data. This year we started collecting for the first time individual, group, and classroom sessions, and then kind of tried to categorize it somewhat into the three domains with crisis response, academic, behavioral, social, emotional. So this is where we were for the first 6 months. You can see, we spend a lot of time in individual sessions. If we do have it broken down by grade level, just not in here, and it just depends on the grade level. So it's difficult to compare between buildings, I think, because our roles are so different, and the needs of each grade level and students are so different. Then further, we just have more data about the parent building meetings and other things that we do and how many meetings we go to for various topics. And as I said before, it would have been interesting. I wish if we would have started this and thought of it 9 years ago when I started, I would have liked to have seen how it's changed over time, because I've seen such a growing change in the needs of students in terms of especially social emotional. So it would have been interesting. So we'll have to watch it carefully as we go forward to see how that has changed. Hopefully now we're more proactive with things like the Mindful Mondays and Warrior Wellness Days and other things we're doing as a district. So maybe we would even start to see over the next several years a decline, possibly as we all become more educated and proactive in helping students with different issues they're dealing with. One thing that we did want to mention is that numbers are an indicator of what is happening, but they don't always tell the whole story. Sometimes it's difficult to quantify our jobs. And so we just have to be careful, I think, that sometimes the numbers don't always tell the whole story. Not only just between elementary versus middle school versus high school, but also just every day can be so different. So, for example, if I spend a few minutes talking to several kids about you need to pass this to graduate, you need to pass this, I may talk to 10 kids in 2 hours, whereas another counselor may have had a student walk in who said they were thinking of harming themselves, and that's a much more serious in-depth where we usually call the social worker and the school psychologist, and we call the parent, and that situation can easily take 2 to 3 hours. And so we have to be careful when we look at charts like this, that while it tells a part of the story, you have to remember if I saw 10 kids and somebody else saw 1 kid one day, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm being more productive or what I did that day is more effective, because obviously that other kid and their issue was just as important. So that's just one thing we wanted to mention, is that it's important to remember there's also quantitative data that isn't necessarily as visible in some of the things that we can easily collect. Then we just have our ratios up here for each of the buildings. We were so excited this year when everyone voted to bring back school counselors to each building. Several years ago, we did have one in each building in the elementary. Mrs. Miller was actually at Pataskala. And then probably kind of a blessing in disguise, maybe. Unfortunately, she did that job. That position was eliminated, but she was pregnant. That year off gave her the year to stay at home with her firstborn, which I'm sure she enjoyed. But then, and then she came back to us at the high school. So we were so glad to have her at the high school, but it was unfortunate that the elementaries for several years had to go with one counselor in between. So we were excited this year when they were added back into each building, and also the addition of the extra position at the middle school. Now this, don't panic, we haven't lost our minds, all right? We realize that 250 students to one school counselor is a dream, but we all have to have dreams, right? So while our caseloads aren't quite to 250, we just did want to mention that that is what ASCA and the Ohio School Counselor Association recommends. is a very effective rate. It is data research that there have been different research studies that have shown it can lead to higher graduation rates, college entrance, and persistence rates, lower absenteeism, fewer suspensions. But we're realistic too, so we're just grateful this year to have a counselor in every building, an extra half-time position at the middle school. So we also wanted to thank you all for that. And just know that we are excited in the future to keep working as a team now. We feel like there's more of us, K through 12. We've enjoyed some of the professional development time we've gotten in the last year and a half, and especially this year to get to know more about what each happens at each grade level and in each building. And so we're working to continue to serve our students and support them as we continue to grow. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you. That was
all.
a great presentation.
Yes.
presentation.
Thank you very much. All right, presentation from the Drug-Free Task Force, please.
Dan Davis, Student Services Coordinator.
Katie Aquadio, Assistant Principal at the Middle School. Thanks for having us this evening.
Katie is going to cover about the first 50 slides. I'm going to get the back of that.
Okay, sometimes follow here. So we want to talk to you tonight. There's currently a drug-free task force, a drug-free club at the high school, and so we'd like to propose to expanding the drug-free club to our 8th grade students. So first, I'd like to highlight the success that the high school has had with their drug-free club. And I think it's really important to note the community involvement that really has been the driving force behind the drug-free club. You can kind of see up there the community involvement, businesses, churches, local officials, parents, they've really been the driving force and have been so supportive of the club at the high school. The high school's had a long-term relationship with the Drug-Free Club of America, and because of that partnership, you can look at the numbers there below to see how many students, since the club has been at the high school, have been committed to that drug-free life. So why is the Drug-Free Club needed at the middle level? A few reasons. I'll show you some trend data from the middle school that shows an increase in vaping offenses in grades 6 through 8. And we know that vaping has made it easier for our students to have easier access to those harmful substances. So at a national level too, from the Surgeon General website, it just shows that between 2011 and 2018, that past 30-day e-cigarette use, which in my interpretation is, have you used an e-cigarette in the past 30 days, has grown dramatically in that time for grades 6 through 8 in high school as well. And I think the most important reason we feel like it's needed at the middle level is that peer pressure. Peer pressure, we know that it's there, but I think that having a drug-free club for 8th grade students can encourage that positive peer pressure, give them a safe space, give them an out to say, hey, sorry, I can't do this. And I also think will be a nice segue into the high school. So there's our data in the past few years. Possession, use of tobacco, and that also includes vaping.
Is that calendar year, school year?
School year.
Do you have any numbers for what it's been so far this school year? Oh, that's the 34.
That was last school year.
Oh, okay.
Less this year so far.
Last so far,
Yeah.
okay.
And I think too that has a lot to do with the vape
detectors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I go to the next slide? So what we feel like the Drug-Free Club can do as far as educating our students, we have that PBIS Tier 1 initiative about educating our students about the dangers of drugs, alcohol, and tobacco and vaping, and so I think that this will be another preventative measure as well. And with that, hoping to spark that conversation with parents, with community members, with the school to try to educate our students and promote a drug-free life. We've also talked with the high school about partnering with their students to have them come educate some of our 8th grade students, talk to them about their experience and the impact that the drug-free club has had on them as high school students.
So here's kind of the nuts and bolts of the club. As Ms. Pequot mentioned, it's not new to the district, but what we're looking at is expanding it to the 8th grade. So what that looks like is membership for students is $70. Now, fortunately, we've had some great community partners outside of ASCA PD, Licking County Sheriff's Office, West Licking Fire. We've had great businesses step up. We have a really strong partnership with Licking Memorial Hospital. So really what we end of the day ask is for students to pay $20, and we've been so far able to secure the rest of the money through community partnerships. If a student for some reason can't even cover the 20, we always have had someone step up to cover that. I think it's important for the board to, most probably important is it does include drug tests. And so when we talk about it, we are talking about moving drug tests to the 8th grade. Now, obviously the club is all voluntary, and it includes a parent permission to join the club. So it starts off, every student who's in the club gets a baseline drug test. And then throughout the year, there's random sampling tests. So I believe the high school just this week finished a random sampling. I think 13 students were tested. So we considered, 8th grade, all of middle school. I think it's a much less of a jump going from freshman to 8th grade as opposed to finishing your 5th grade year at the intermediate building and then drug testing 6th grade. It's kind of a big pill to swallow. So this is kind of our attempt to kind of fade into the middle school at an appropriate level where we think it's not a huge jump. It's still, like I said, voluntary for parents to sign up. And it is a partnership with Licking Memorial. If a student is found to have drugs in their system following a test, there is a total protocol that Drug-Free Clubs of America follows to work that out privately with the family and connect them with resources. Biggest thing is being a part of the group is committed to living a drug-free life. One incentive that you guys probably maybe saw earlier in the fall is when we give out those iPads during the football games, if you remember that. We make a really big deal out of it, and that we use that typically during our registration drive. Ms. Ladowitz has been very involved with that at our high school level. And when we come to meet, we have a really big team that meets. We have, like I said, we have the fire, the police, several communities, several churches involved. So there's a really big community effort. In fact, the community is generally pushing us to do more and more and more. So we've got some really strong community leaders on the team as well. We did introduce some incentives to the middle school this year. Obviously, we would build on that. We know we need to build out our support group a little bit to cover additional costs that we might incur. But essentially, we feel like it's a pretty logical step to, especially with our drug use increasing at the middle school level, to add this at the 8th grade level, see how it goes for a year or two. Talking with Drug-Free of America, we're not the only district in Ohio that has middle schools in their club. There's about 5 or 6 other ones that are just connected to their specific organization. And there's a little bit more, I would say, education involved ahead of time. So using some of the high school students, like what does a drug test look like? So literally they will walk students through the step because that's going to be a pretty unfamiliar process for most of our students. Any questions? We'd hope to get this started next year is the plan.
I have a question. With the community grants and donations to help cover the portion of the registration fee, membership fee, have we talked to those partners to make sure that they are okay supporting the younger age group?
They've actually tried to push us the last couple of years into expanding it to that middle school. Licking Memorial has been an amazing partner, and a couple of the businesses, so Depot Street Coffee, Weiler Financial is a big backer behind it. The Four Family is a big backer behind it. Our goal is to try to spread that out a little bit because they do step up every year, and they've committed to stepping up again to covering those. But we're kind of looking at some shifts within our drug task force team to kind of spread those costs so it's not so much on those specific businesses.
We also have some district grants that can support wellness initiatives, so we don't have to always tap out the community.
I just wanted to make sure that they're aware that we were pushing to go down. I didn't want to lose someone that maybe didn't agree with it.
Sure, yeah, and really it's been the last couple of years they've tried to, and I've been on, I think this is my 3rd year with the team, and Mrs. P. Quadio has joined it this 2nd year with the team, so it's been kind of that gradual push there, and like I said, they're pushing us to that point. Yep. Yes, sir.
If someone tests positive, what kind of program is in place for helping that student?
Sure. So in the event that a student tests positive, Drug-Free Clubs of America will reach out directly to that family, and they have an array of resources depending on the specific drug that is found in the test. It's 100% confidential. the most likely situation is they hook them up with a drug counselor, and then it is up to the option of the family whether to notify the school itself at that point. To my knowledge, we haven't been notified. I know we've had positive tests that come back and students get connected with resources, but to my knowledge, the families have not chosen at this point yet to notify the school. Yeah. Any other questions?
This isn't necessarily for you, but this probably is this direction. Are we doing any younger curriculum, like that second and third grade drug curriculum, guys?
We don't have anything specific yet.
Because I know.
I'm thinking like a DARE program.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Run out like at the 4th to 5th grade level. Fifth graders typically DARE.
Okay, because I'm thinking of like, I'm gonna show my age, but you know, back in the day, I mean, we really.
Candy cigarettes in our school.
That's what, but we really got hounded back. I mean, really, really
Just
early.
say no.
Just say no, and I mean, even smoking. I mean, we really got hounded about smoking. I mean, from first grade on, and I'm thinking that that's kind of. I mean, we're not at middle school. It's too late. They're
I know they got something in 3rd grade.
Yeah.
About smoking, because I had a 3rd grader last year and she came home and talked about it. But
Through the Licking County partnership we have.
Okay.
And do
Yeah.
specific lessons. It's not
Okay.
the whole curriculum.
Gotcha. So you're getting little pieces of stuff at least. Okay.
And the club, our task force has also talked about using our students as mentors to other students at younger grade levels. So
Well, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's just some peer learning things over into the buildings.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else?
Yeah. Do we need it?
Do we have an action on this?
Is this a?
I don't know if we need an action, do we? I know everyone feels like they're in
No,
support.
it's not a school sponsored club, right?
No, so it's okay. 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 Good then. All right. Okay, we had a presentation, but we are gonna move them to next month because they got confused on which school board they were gonna visit tonight, so. They're doing ones all over the county, so. Request to speak on agenda items, Teamsters Local 413 and Southwest Licking Education Association. All right, we need approval of minutes. Motion to approve A and B.
I move to approve 4A and B.
Second.
All right, Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Spindler,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mr. Zani,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel.
Yes. All right, that passes. We need a motion to approve the financial report, and then we can have some discussion.
Motion approval.
Second.
All right. Mr. Jones?
Yes. Yeah, the financial executive summary for the month ended January 31st, 2020. Fairly routine month, nothing really out of ordinary. We did receive our 3rd income tax settlement for the year. It did come in slightly less than we expected, but compared to last year, we still collected $300,000 more at this time than last year. So we're still growing, just not as high as we expected it to. So other than that, there was really nothing out of the ordinary for the month. Be glad to answer any questions you have, but fairly routine.
Any questions? All right, Mr. Jones?
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mr. Zani,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel.
Yes, that motion passes. All right, we need a motion to adjourn into executive session for the purpose of employment or compensation of a public employee.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Spindler,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Zani,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel.
Yes, we are in executive session at 8:14. We will have business when we return. back from executive session. It is 8:34 p.m. Call the meeting to order. Mr. Jones, will you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Moore,
Here.
Mrs. Spindler,
Here.
Mr. Vincent,
Here.
Mr. Zani,
Here.
Mrs. Engel.
Here. We have a quorum. We can continue. We have number 7, the personnel consent calendar, items A through I. Need a motion for those, please.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion?
Are we approving A through I? Okay.
Yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Jones?
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler,
Yes.
Mr. Zani,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel.
Yes. All right, that passes. We have 8A, motion to approve, volunteer coach.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Spindler,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mr. Zani,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel.
Abstain. All right, and number 9, we have multiple business items. Let's see, we've got STEAM Camp, June 2020. Need a motion to approve a $40 camp fee per student. And let's see, staff members working the camp would pay $25 per student attending instead of $40. Board will provide funding for up to 4 students from each building who qualify for free or reduced lunch to be paid from the general fund. Need a motion for all of that.
Move approval, 9A.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just have a quick question.
Yes.
Is this the same fees as last year?
Yes.
How many kids do we service for this?
We had to turn some down last year. We had 250. We have 11 teachers plus an art teacher, so 12 total that was.
And the mini scholarships, last year, they were all taken?
They were not all taken last
They
year.
were not, okay.
Okay. Anything else? All right, Mr. Jones?
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler,
Yes.
Mr. Zani,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel.
Yes. All right, that passes. 9B.
Skip
We
that.
already did that one, right? All right, 9C. We need a motion to adopt a participation ban set forth as described by the athletic department due to violations to the sportsmanship code of conduct.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. In reading the letter, this is a person that has had multiple offenses. I would say that they're pretty egregious. We've all seen the video. In the letter, it doesn't say he's only banned until next fall, which is only for a few months. And then we didn't put any kind of consequence if he violates and tries to sneak in again, or if he has another incident. And I think that we should have a consequence, and if he tries to sneak in or if he violates again, he gets a lifetime ban.
I thought we had something about the trespassing laws if he violated again.
They'll call authorities. But I think enough is enough. If you trespass, you're done. If
We can run that through Dane.
Yes.
The letter did go through Dane, and Dane I originally did it, and he tweaked some of the language and stuff. So, yeah, we could definitely run that through him to make sure, you know what I mean, legal wise.
I think we hold our students, if our students are in trouble, they could be out for a year. So, and this is an adult who should be setting an example.
And I will add that I told him in person and via written communication that if there was an additional action after this ban, that would be it. But we can also put it in a more formal letter, just so we have.
So he has no doubt what's gonna happen.
Yes.
And I don't know, I think we need to be extremely consistent with this policy. I think this needs to not be, I mean, I think we need to use this when we need to use this.
I can tell you, I.
Do you know that's what?
I have documented every one that we've done. I started
Yeah.
that this year.
Yeah.
Last year was my first 2 years as AD. I don't believe I had a parent thrown out, at
Okay.
least that I know of at high school level. I mean, at the middle school, maybe something that communication didn't give me, I don't know. But last year was the first. And then it happened a couple of times. So we kind of got together as administration and said, look, I offer this letter. It's any parent or any spectator, shouldn't even say parent, any spectator that gets thrown out of an athletic contest gets a warning letter. And I have that template, and I have given 1, 2, 3, I think I've sent 3 of those this year. Warning letters.
I actually think that, in my personal opinion, I think that with our code of conduct and sportsmanship, that we should even be able to be more, I'm going to use the word punitive, if that's the appropriate, we are getting a terrible name in our conference and in our, just with other teams. We're not going to be able to get referees. So I just think we need to make sure that, if by throwing out, not even just if we need to throw somebody out, that we do that. I mean, I sat at a football game, and if I had the power, I would have thrown out the person behind me. It was dreadful. And I would have hoped that the children on the field would not have been able to hear what was going on, but I'm sure that they were hearing it, so.
I think that you're talking about that warning letter.
Good, that's what
We're making sure that we're communicating this to all the youth sports, and so they know, the youth, people know that this person is not allowed, or this person has a warning letter from the school, just so you know. I think we need to keep that communication, so we don't have somebody that we say, you get a warning letter, coaching kids over here.
I also wonder if it's not something we may want to add to our mandatory parent athlete slideshow that we have at the beginning of every season.
There is a PowerPoint that I do have a slide.
Okay, good.
I think it might have been in there,
It was.
but maybe even beef it up. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this is just, it's crazy.
OHSAA has made it a point about this in terms of parent conduct and fan conduct. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really getting hard to hire referees across the board, not just at a high school level, but all the way down to youth levels for club sports. It's getting really tough to find people willing to take games, and it's not because of the kids.
Right.
So just to be clear, we are voting, our vote now is just for the remainder of this school year.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
But with Deb's caveat that there'll be,
If there's if he trespasses, or if he has any other incident.
yeah, that'll be
Done.
outlined in the letter.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Spindler,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mr. Zani,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel.
Yes. All right, that motion passes. Item D, we need a motion to approve an overnight trip for band and choir programs to New York City, March 22nd to March 26th, 2021. No school days missed and no cost to the district.
So moved. Motion to approve D, 9D.
I'll second that. Any discussion?
Are they just going for fun? Are they performing?
Performing.
Okay.
Yeah, performing. We will, both band and choir will have the opportunity to perform a shared concert, and then we will all see a Broadway show together, just for an educational performance experience. We will also all go see the New York Philharmonic. So multiple educational opportunities, as well as cultural opportunities. We'll visit the 9/11 Memorial, visit Battery Park, take the Staten Island ferry, get to see the Statue of Liberty. We're not going to actually go to the Statue of Liberty because there actually isn't that much to do there, but we'll get to see it and a few other cultural activities.
Do you need any supervisors to go?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yep. Also board approved.
Oops.
I'm gonna go on that
Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Spindler,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mr. Zani.
Yes.
Alright, motion passes. Policy, we have several policies to approve first reading. Motion to approve first reading of the policies. BDDB and BDDC.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to let the board know that when we met, they sent, OSBA sent us their suggestions for policies, but their suggestions were much more lenient, and we specifically changed these policies after some experience on the board. So we went with maintaining what the board approved, instead of being vague and more lenient.
So, are we ready for discussion? Why, I guess for me, the issue I had was moving from majority to 2/3 vote. That to me seemed, I don't know, I'm not a big fan of the supermajority, and I just didn't understand why we needed to change that.
I don't know if we thought it was probably a
We
Robert's
thought it was
rule.
Robert rule, we thought that they had gone back and thought maybe it was Robert's Rules of Order, that was the only reason.
And that was the number that they had in Robert's rules.
Yeah.
I don't,
We'd have to look at Robert's rules to see if it's consistent.
Yeah, I don't know, look and see.
I don't know, I just in life, I look at, majority to me should be enough. But the events that they're describing here, they aren't going to happen very often, if ever even. But that's just my concern. But
Yeah, we actually had the exact same discussion as this, and we're like, oh, but it's probably a Robert's Rules thing, because that's what that was like a specific change to what we had.
Right, but as is, it says a motion by majority of the board. Once the agenda is approved, it's required. As it is right now, it just says vote of majority, right? That's what's being stricken, and we're adding 2/3. So, okay, but as is right now, it is majority.
But mathematically, we would never have less than 2/3.
Correct.
Because if one of us was missing, it's 50-50 or a majority.
So if one of us is missing, right, it'd be 3 out of 4.
Right, so you have two.
Okay. Or
We'd always
4 out of 5.
Or 4, yeah.
Majority for us is always 2/3.
There's no, I mean,
well, I don't know, when 5 times 2/3 is 3.67.
Oh, God.
I know, right?
so that's still
Not
majority.
fifth grade math.
That's what I was gonna
So
say.
it's the same, so.
That's what I was gonna say, 3, it is the same for
So
us.
do you need 3 or do you need 4? I guess that's my
You
question.
have to have 4 to be 2/3, right?
Right.
So you would have to always have a majority. It still is 2/3. If our board was like 6 people, it might change. It would change.
Right, but right now we have 5. So
Right.
to get a majority, you just need 3.
Yes,
We
and
change it to 4.
3. What was the? What
I
was?
think it's 3.67.
Oh,
I don't know. I just don't like getting away from majority.
I don't
and
think you
going
can
to
have a 0.67 vote. So.
So
3
what-
would still be what you needed. So
Yeah.
you'd have to have 3,
Yeah.
and that would
But
still be
if
the
you
majority.
had 3, then technically you wouldn't. That still wouldn't be 2/3. That would be 60%, not 66. That's my.
Okay.
No, I'm not trying to be disagreeable. I personally don't like that, but we can vote.
That would mean that we would always have to pass everything with 4. Or at least when it came to the agenda.
When it came to this,
O-
yes.
Only if you wanted to make a modification,
Right.
an
Right.
additional modification, once the agenda is approved.
Okay.
Yeah, which.
I mean, like this,
to a
the
pretty
likelihood
close.
of this ever happening is
Yes.
minuscule.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make an argument based on majority. supermajority. So.
And here, Robert says, if agenda is adopted, changed, it takes a 2/3 vote.
Okay, so that's what
So
it is.
that's in Robert's rules.
So they just fixed it to cover that.
Okay.
Thanks. Thanks.
I didn't know that, I just read it.
I know, that's what it is.
So
Thanks.
I guess my question then would be, why, has it always been that way in Robert's rules? Like, why was it this way now and then it?
I think Robert's, if you look at the different things for Robert's rules, they do have different totals after each of them. I just remember that from a few years ago when I had to study them over and over. So they do have different things in there to say 2/3.
Okay.
And sometimes, I think they let us write our policies, didn't they? And then now, as they do policy review, that's when they make changes. Is that correct?
All right.
Good. All right, Mr. Jones.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Zani,
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent,
No.
Mrs. Engel.
Yes. All right, that passes for the first reading. All right, treasurer's items. We've got A, donations, and B, statement of purpose.
Motion approval of 10A and B.
Second?
Pretty self-explanatory. Well, I appreciate donations, thank you.
Yep.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And statement of purposes. So.
All right, great. Any questions for Mr. Jones? All right, Mr. Jones.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler,
Yes.
Mr. Zani,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel.
Yes. All right, that passes. Now we have superintendent's items.
So I was hoping to have a recommendation, but we're not quite there yet. So I wanted to update you where we're at with venues for graduation next year. So with the help of the high school and Robin, we've contacted over 11 places. We have 2 that are interested in us, but only 1-ish, so I'll explain that. So currently we do have Denison University that is locked in for next year if we need them. The negative there is they will not commit to anything beyond next year. They're basically saying, we'll help a neighbor, we know your high school's being renovated, even though we're saying it's not really because of that, we need it because of space, but they're saying we'll help a neighbor for 1 year. So we've kind of had them on hold, waiting to see if option 2 will pan out. The Cavelli Center initially told us no, and now I don't know if other people are calling, but they're changing their tune now. So it's kind of working its way up the chain of command. The last conversation, and she said the contact said hopefully next week we're going to hear more, said it's not approved yet, but they're kind of working out the logistics of, where the graduates will be placed, when they're waiting and to come in, and, where one would sit, and then the cost. Right now, she's kind of throwing out there 10 to 20. So I think she's more or less a little unsure and has to wait till the people above her. So I'm thinking if we can get the Cavelli Center, it'll be new for graduation. We'll be able to lock in probably a preferred date and be able to keep something consistent for our graduates, as opposed to if we go with Denison, we're just going to have to come back a year later and looking for some other place, which, in calling all these places for various reasons, size, or they're too booked, or, no parking, we're down to 2, really 1 for permanently. So if the Cavelli Center comes back and says they're not going to hold graduation, bearing that we can't find anything else, we'll probably come back and say, let's use Denison for a year. Let's try to convince them to take us permanently. There are negatives. There's no air conditioning. And it's going to be a distance because of construction, but we could, get a school bus. We could figure that out, transporting people, if we have to. But if not, I'm hoping that we can come back with the Cavelli Center, and then as a board, we can discuss the cost and how we want to fund that. So that's kind of just a little update, and then hopefully I come back next month with an answer for a recommendation.
Where's the Cavelli Center?
Not near campus, Ohio State. It's their new wrestling.
Ohio State.
Yeah, it's their new wrestling. So that's that, and then I wanted to talk about the athletic facility. So we sent out a survey to all head coaches. Based on the survey results, any head coach that said that they had planned on using the facility, we invited them to a meeting with Brian and myself and Lisa. So all the head coaches that said they wanted to use the facility were present, except for our boys soccer coach was unable to attend. So some of the things that are the areas we talked about, or their concerns, or we wanted to get their feedback, were about the showers. That was pretty much unanimous that they said they wanted to maintain the showers, that it was hard to say if, specifically the girls would utilize them, but they said we don't have a comparison because they're so awful right now. Why would anyone want to use them? So they did want to maintain those. They asked if we could add water fountains inside with access to fill up their water bottles, which I thought was a really good idea. They wanted to, which I know was a concern from the board, create a partition wall. So as male coaches would come into the facility to the locker room, they would not be able to see into the girls' locker room. So the architect is working on that as well. So that would take care of that concern. Then they proposed adding a door between the male locker room office and the visiting locker room office for accessibility to both areas for film. So it would just give an extra place to go watch the film, extra entryway, which I thought was a good idea as well. And then the washer dryer hookups. That was pretty, something that they all seemed pretty interested in, which Brian said we could do that as well. So I left the meeting, and I think they left the meeting feeling pretty content with the things we discussed. We made, we clarified at the end too, like anything else, anything we're missing, and they seemed pretty excited about the proposed changes. Brian seemed like we could do those, and they seemed happy with and excited for the facility. The only other thing I want to tell you before we decide we can move forward with the athletic facility or not is that initially the building was placed where it was at due to the water well, and Bob or Rick can jump in if I say this wrong, but it was never mentioned at that time, or at least that anyone recalls, that the well had to be moved. So now, due to the building changing its size slightly, it could be shifted and or moved. So here's what I guess I'm asking you, because we're gonna have to move the well either way, which is not gonna be a problem. So the architects can look at the efficiency of the land, and part of the woods would have to come down, so would that impact the cross-country course? I don't have that answer. So today, so I guess I'm saying, is it parallel to you? Do you think it's, or is it important that the building is the way it was initially designated, and or if it's slightly at an angle and back a little bit based on whatever the architects deem better and whatever works out with the current land, is that problematic to you? So how it is now versus if it went on a little bit of a slant. Does anyone have a dying passion one way or the other regarding that issue? Because if you say no, I'm going to have Brian look into, well, Bob's going to have Brian look into, where should it be positioned? Do you guys want to add in anything to that?
No, the reason for the well is when we had that additional bathroom on it, that pushed it over into that well. So we're going to move the well and the storage tank to a base of water to the soccer field. There's going to drill a new well, put a new storage tank in, so there is more flexibility, more down towards the, basically where the food stand is, or even back in the woods a little bit, not still real close to the facility, and angled as a possibility to get it away from the home bleachers and get it away from the home run fence too a little bit. So there is some flexibility there. We just didn't know as a board, as you felt, and Brian says it's not a decision we had to make now if we wanted, but we want to know, are you okay with flexibility, or it's where you said you wanted that, and no matter what, as a board.
What did you say about the soccer field?
The well waters the soccer field.
Oh, waters it. I thought you said it was gonna have to go under it.
No.
What?
That's not gonna work.
No, it's used to water the soccer field, so it's more economical than using the city water to basically to water it, so it's gotta move either way, and there's ability, some flexibility, so I guess we wanna know as a board, are you okay with them getting a little bit of architectural leeway to make changes they feel, but, Casey, Wilson, Bob still sign off on the final location and stuff. Questions? And also, there was a question about, you'd asked if Brian ever built a locker room without showers, and he said no, he never has. That was a question that was asked also. I want to get that answer too. So thoughts, I guess Brian really needs the direction to move forward. He's ready to get people started on it. We wanted to wait till we had a chance to survey the coaches and meet with them to make sure they're comfortable with the facility they are. We feel like Casey and I recommend moving forward. I guess your thought as a board, because you're the ones that brought some hesitation last time.
I'm flexible. Despite what my husband says, I'm flexible.
On some things, how's that? So, as a board, you're okay moving forward as designed with these modifications and give the architect a little bit of leeway on where to place it, but still gonna be in that northwest corner of the football field, right?
I'm good with that.
Yeah,
Kathy, you good,
I'm
or-
flexible. I just would like to know when you find out if it affects any kind of
Yeah,
course.
we could definitely let you know for sure.
Yeah, that's, the course is definitely a consideration. We gotta make sure that's taken care of too.
I mean, I'm sure if it's affected, it just is a matter of how much.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
I mean, John did talk in our coaches meeting with Brian about currently where it was placed and some of the movement, and he seemed pretty confident he was gonna be okay, but that could be different if it goes back into the woods, so we will have to look into that.
It's not very far, it's a
It
little.
won't be that far, right? It doesn't sound like.
No, it's a little tiny bit. So you were good to go with it?
Yeah.
John,
Sure,
you're
John,
okay with
you
that?
guys-
As designed with location, because we want to tell them tomorrow, they can start designing it, move forward, and be done.
As designed plus that stuff.
Plus with
the
modifications, yes, that's per the meeting with the coaches.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
That's
Thanks
all
for
I
staying,
have.
Bob. Anything words of wisdom?
You're asking me to talk?
No, not really. It's a rhetorical question.
Actually, a new layout is much closer to the sign, which I think is going to be convenient for the space.
I just think maybe we need to look at parking when you do it too. And I know that's money, but just think about parking when you're doing that too.
It would be nice if somebody could work in paving that whole area.
Yeah, that'd be nice if you could think about that too, while you're
Get it done.
managing the project.
Get it done.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Make it happen. Make it so. There
Real
you go.
nice.
I mean, one thing, as we talk about, I mean, that's, right now we're looking at $4 million.
Uh-huh.
Are you okay upping it some to allow paving the parking? I mean, I don't know, what it'd be, 4.25, 4.5 million? I have no clue, I'm just throwing numbers out there.
Can you wait till March 18th before I tell you that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, we're working on that bond issue.
Yeah.
So that's going to decide what the final number is, because right now we're using $4 million.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. All right, request to speak on non-agenda items, Teamsters 413, Southwest Licking Education Association. All right, let's see, motion to adjourn into executive session for the purpose of preparing for, conducting, or, excuse me, my glasses off, I'm sorry. Reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning the compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment and or confidential business information of an applicant for an economic development assistance. You need a motion for that.
Move approval. And to go into executive session.
Second.
All right, we need a roll call, Mr. Jones.
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Ziny,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel.
Yes, we are in executive session at 9:03.
My daughter just went.
To Brunswick in the morning.
Back from executive session at 9:35. Mr. Jones, will you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Moore,
Here.
Mrs. Spindler,
Here.
Mr. Vincent,
Here.
Mr. Ziny,
Here.
Mrs. Engel,
Here. We have a quorum. We can continue. We just need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Jones?
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler,
Yes.
Mr. Ziny,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel.
Yes. We are adjourned at 9:36.
Say anything.